I would like to invite our guest speakers to the panel discussion. And my first question to all, is the concept of sustainable buildings merely a band-aid solution to the larger issue of unsustainable urbanization and overconsumption? How can we address the root causes of these challenges? Mr. Jose Kothari, if you'd like to share your inputs first.
This is a very tricky question. So at the moment, being a practitioner of sustainability, for so many years, I feel that today, yes, many organizations consider sustainability as a band-aid or a quick fix. However, there are a few organizations who actually are rooted, their DNA is into sustainability and they really care for it. And I feel the root cause for this is, the leadership of any organization. If the leaders are really keen on creating a sustainable asset, all other stakeholders will gladly follow them. So I think today, majority, more than 80% is indeed a band-aid solution.
Thank you, Mr. Juzair, for your inputs. Mr. Yatil, would you like to share your thoughts?
All right, few basic statements, then we can elaborate during the discussion. But first, I will say that it's a phenomenon and not a formula. Anything, even well intended, but when it becomes a standard formula, then it loses its contextual touch or its relevance. And that's probably what in some ways have been happening. Sustainability was in fact, and second thing is that the hype that goes with it. And in that, we lose the kind of essence of it quite some time. For example, it has become like Mera Wala Green. It's like the way Vastu Shastri would say, everybody has their own norm. There are some standards which we don't question, but then in Mera Wala interpretation. So I think in that, while variation is welcome, but the primary intent and that with that, the basic goal for which what we are trying to do, and therefore contextual adjustment. And that's the flexibility that is very woven in the concept of sustainability. Because if you go only with one rigid way of doing things, then it may or may not be appropriate. So being appropriate is what takes care of most of the time, the idea of sustainability. Otherwise, it's ornament to wear as a fashion.
Right. So how far you agree with Mr. Juzair's view of taking a lead by leadership?
See, point is that I always say that our profession or any professional, you compare with that of a doctor. Why do you go to a doctor to? Doctor knows many things, but he would diagnose and give you the appropriate treatment. And this is exactly how anybody comes to an architect. So you're a doctor of other sciences, and you give what is appropriate as a solution. Okay. So, and finally, it has to endure the well-being, quality of life, the, state of the environment. So that's what holistically what you are taught. So leadership in the sense that when you do your job, I think a lot of it has already been taken care of, and that's what you are taught for. So I think each one has to do their bit, and it is, I think, integral to the services that we offer. As even professional, whether sustainability or not, while you might be addressing the cause or issues of individual client, but your bottom line is that you're a mediator for a collective good, and that collective good meaning social well-being and environmental well-being. So I think anything that you do, even for anyone, it has that weighted filter of that concern that has to go in.
I very much agree with you.
I'd just like to just add one thing. When I said that the leaders who create these assets or edifice, I truly mean the people who put in money on all this. If they really want to make it sustainable, they can really do that. Its money speaks in many ways.
But I would slightly say that when you do things very obvious, commonsensical, because this also leads to sometimes often, FAQs that does it cost more? Why should sustainability cost you more? If you go by the prescribed certain thing, for example, copper pipe will give you 2 points, then it may cost you more. But if you do good piping where the pressure losses are less, it shouldn't cost more. So I think it's not even onus on people putting money. It's more about you doing your diligent duty, where you consider out of whatever choices that you have for the given context, what is appropriate, and appropriate keeping in mind place, people, environment, and of course the efficiency and the aesthetics.
Right. It's very important that opinion leaders always matter in any movement, right? Ms. Roshni, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yes, I think it's been an interesting topic already, but I wouldn't really call it a band-aid as you put it, because sustainability is so large the way it is defined. I mean, it's not just about rating systems, it's about really, there are some really positive examples of sustainable buildings and communities and so on. So I wouldn't say it is that. Secondly, about the urbanization, there's this adjective who's unsustainable urbanization. Unfortunately, we have come to use that. I also disagree there that it need not be so. We can definitely have a sustainable way of doing urbanization as well, wherein dense people come and stay in dense, localities, and there is also economics to that. So both of these things is what I think. But if you ask about what should be, then I think that what are the issues? Like I think that regional planning or kind of a holistic sustainable planning is what is required, which includes things like resource management, watershed, considering climate resilience, all of these aspects. That is what it would be, rather than, I don't think that it need to be called as Band-Aid. And it's part of a process, basically. Maybe today we are all thinking it looks like a Band-Aid, but maybe tomorrow it would.
Yeah. Do you mean that the scope of sustainability is relative to the civic sense of the community?
Absolutely, yeah. And ultimately, the objective of all of these is to create awareness, I say that even a code like energy conservation building code may be so complex, but ultimately its objective is to spread awareness among people that you can be more energy efficient in your building design.
Agreed, totally. Ms. Mala, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yeah, sustainability is a very new evolving terminology, which we all intellectual people like professionals, we are addressing, in respect to corporate responsibility when we talk about the corporates. But I agree with the Roshni when she said that it is more about macro level, like when we are also looking into the contribution from the various communities, various individuals, because sustainability has to be for all, and we need to simplify sustainability for all, because each and everyone in the society has a different way of contribution, different way of thinking, different way of the approach they are adopting, and delivering sustainability in their own way. Because when we come to the corporate, it's about their policy, commitments, and how they integrate these concepts into their overall business portfolio by adopting some benchmarks or standards or frameworks like that. And when it comes to the real estate sector, then we talk green building and we address sustainability in our own way and benchmarks and rating system. When it comes to the community and very, I would say the leaders of the society, like some people are setting so many examples now, setting their own way of sustainability contribution. And where the impact you can see the bigger, if you just compare the impact also. So sustainability means for every person, it has different meaning. Even a radiwala or some seller, vegetable hawker, somebody is contributing and somebody is selling some organic stuff and somebody is making some eco-friendly stuff. Everybody is contributing in their own way. So sustainability, we all are sustainability leaders. When we contribute little, we contribute large, but everyone's contribution matters in the challenges. Now, this is what I feel, that sustainability has to be on for all, and it need to be simplified for all. I say all very exclusivity for some people.
Right. Yeah, Dr. Mala, you're an advocate of sustainable green construction in India, right? So how challenging is this when it comes to practice with the government and corporates?
Oh, challenges with the government. I think government has started to talk about sustainability because if you see the current challenges of climate change and global warming, and where I would say in an optimistic and positive way that our country where I'm residing, I definitely want to talk about that. So we have already given a lot of commitments for our contributions in terms of carbon emission reduction, in terms of renewable energy applications. So many commitments are there, and net zero commitments by 2070, that is also there. So those sort of interventions, in terms of sustainable development is already coming into the picture in the policy intervention. So this is what I think, the creating a vibe and atmosphere at regional level and all over the country in all the government, I would say, departments, that everyone, every stakeholder has to contribute, in sustainable development, because it's messages coming from the top leadership. So that's the point one here. And when it comes to the corporates, I think in the corporates, now due to financial obligations in the market, like your investor relations, to build trust among the investors, and to build, what brand building image also. Because I have noticed that the main thing is, the once you get those sort of questions, from your stakeholders, the demand comes from the stakeholders, then I think corporates become more conscious and does all those things. And voluntarily, some corporates are doing their bit for sustainability, because they also have understood now that without this, they can't sustain. It has to be integral part of their policy mechanism, the strategic approach, in terms of looking into the optimization of resources, and also, the brand building, as well as, the stakeholder engagement, and I would say just a collaborative approach.
Right.
And the large impact on the community also through their initiatives. So I think everything is going in the progressive manner, but still the challenges are a lot, because challenges are also not something we can just transform in one day, everything. So each effort really matters. It comes from the government, it comes from the corporate, it comes from the individual. I think each effort really matters, and it is adding value. This is what it was.
Thank you so much, Mala, for sharing your thoughts. Let's talk about the materials. Mr. Yatin, how do cements and steel companies respond to the sustainable solutions for construction?
Okay, first we must go a little 2 steps backward. Way of life is the first to sort of challenge or answer. Then are your design solutions, if you're talking about architectural purview, and then comes technology and material. Quite often we put a lot of onus on material and technique. That's one of the design decisions, important one, but nonetheless, its place has to be that. Because right now what happens is that I might face it in a wrong orientation, but then I can say I have a DGU glass with this kind of insulative property, etc. However, with material, there's a general kind of a thumb rule that if you take unburned clay brick as a unit, burning it makes it 2 times more energy intensive. Then cement is 10 times, steel is 30 times, plastic is somewhere 100, glass is 100 times, plastic 120 times, and aluminum is 160 times more energy intensive. So as one of the design decisions that as an architect you end up taking, you do look for many aspects of material and technology. Material always goes with technology. It is not just brick, but brick as a bolt, or brick as dome, or brick as something else, is where you could also make a difference in terms of its behavior, in terms of its responses, etc. And material needs to be understood from the point of not only its performance, aesthetic, etc., but even when we say energy, its procurement cost, its preparation cost, as well as its transport. And in Bangalore, granite is one of the cheapest material. People in slum use it as a fencing material, but by the time it comes to north, it might be a different price. Italian marble is probably weaker than our Rajasthan marble, but coming from there, people's fashion as well as the cost, so even an embodied energy cost is another kind of a thing. So I think material need not be seen in one parameter in isolation. It has to be with technology. It has to be one of the design decisions. And when you take it, how appropriately then you respond to those decisions is something. But local the better, less, and in India, we do need as a thumb rule, both insulation and ventilation. So again, some of those properties are very obvious when you take it, not just by the, complicated formula and the calculations.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yatin, for sharing your knowledge regarding sustainable building materials. Welcome, Mr. Kishan. Like what Nitin was talking about sustainable designs, what do you want to add? What are your views on this?
See, definitely on construction part, the steel part and the cement part, all the green buildings suggest the, taking the recycled content and, this definitely put a green building. But beyond that also, I'm not talking about only material, but we need to go beyond the material part as well. Although I made a presentation based on the technologies, the smart buildings which we need based on the IoT system. That is also, we need to think about to make a building sustainable apart from the steel and cement, all the materials part.
Thank you so much for sharing your inputs, Mr. Kishan. Mr. Jose, how do you assess the ecosystem available for sustainable construction growth in India?
Oh, it's very much there. I think over the last 20 years, I think various organizations and agencies have really created a transformation in this field. And I would like to mention IGBC, Indian Green Building Council, is instrumental. And then you have other agencies like USGBC, the Griha, GEM now, ASOCHEM. So all of them have really contributed to transforming the whole industry. There have also been many product certifications that have come out. Like you have these Green Pro by CII, and you have EPD, this Environmental Product Declaration. So all this and the awareness to the stakeholders that these are good and useful, and they create an impact on the building material, the embodied energy, all that, that's really helped. But we have a long way to go.
Yes, agreed. Ms. Roshni, let's come back to design. How far designs matter in terms of sustainability, and how cost comparison deprive this drive?
I think, of course, design it plays a major role, because if the design is good, then the long term the building's performance will be good. And as we know that during the operational life of the building is the maximum amount of resources that are consumed, whether it is water and all of the things waste generated. So how we design matters, of course. And if you take from the point of view of just the building, say passive design of the building, then definitely, we cannot even now so much as compute the impact of that. But definitely, if you have a good design in the first place, then over the long run, it's going to be much less consuming in terms of energy.
Right. Okay, Mr. Kishan, what is sustainability according to you?
Yeah, the sustainability has very, different definitions. If we speak, everyone definitely will say, talk about design, talk about construction. Overall, we can say that how it is impacting as in long term to the environment. If it is impacting long term to the environment, definitely it is not sustainable. So life cycle assessment has come into picture now. For that, IoT-based system has also come into picture now. So to assess this long term impact, these things are coming up in the picture. So my observation and my opinion is, if anything is impacting on long term, it's not sustainable, and sustainable would definitely be in the reverse of this.
Right.
Thank you, my dear speakers. For viewers who have joined us today, we would like your feedback and encourage you to stay connected with us via our social media handles. AC Update is available on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also download our app from Google Play and the App Store. We also request our viewers to stay tuned for future interactions. With that, today's interaction has now come to a close. Thank you and goodbye.